He thanks Reno for making him feel better, saying he has decided to apply to the Defense Force, but he suddenly sees a strange creature, which tells him that it's looking for him, and it suddenly dives into his mouth, causing him to struggle. Reno notices this, so he asks Kafka if he's okay, but Reno is shocked when he sees him. Kafka looks in the mirror, realizing he has turned into a monster, so they both panic, but Kafka explains that he still has control over his body, and another patient sees them, so he calls for help, and they know that Kafka is about to get hunted down, so they decide to run away. We cut to Mina, as she thinks about Kafka, who promised her that he's going to stay by her side, but she calls him a liar, because she's fighting the kaijus without him. She receives a call, and she learns that a kaiju has appeared in the hospital, so she promises to get rid of it. In a flashback, we see Mina laughing at Kafka, thinking he's corny for saying that he will protect her if she's ever scared. He starts to get embarrassed, but she actually thanks him and is happy that they will always be together. We see her gather her team, and she tells them about the situation at the hospital. There's an alert on the news, and the people are told to take shelter. We return to the hospital, and the old man is terrified, so Reno suggests clearing up the misunderstanding, telling Kafka to smile. But when he tries it, it just causes the man to faint. Kafka rushes to help him, but as he touches the wall, he blows it away, and they are shocked by his strength. The other patients wonder about the explosion, and Reno thinks they need to get away. Kafka goes to open the window, but he completely tears it away. He starts freaking out about his body, but Reno says they need to go. We see Mina's team on their way, and she receives a report about them leaving the hospital. Meanwhile, Reno wonders how Kafka turned into a kaiju, asking if he's really still the same guy. But Kafka says he doesn't know, as we see he has taken on a more monstrous form. He manages to turn back, but notes there's another problem, saying he needs to pee. Reno tells him to hold it in, but Kafka isn't able to control himself, so Reno wonders where the pee will come from, and it comes out of his nipples. Kafka is embarrassed by this, but Reno says they need to keep moving. Kafka wonders if he can still join the Defense Force like this, but Reno thinks it's impossible, because he's become the thing that the Force is defending against, thinking he'll be shot on sight. He becomes devastated realizing he will never join the Defense Force, thinking he won't be able to keep his promise with Mina. Reno notices a sealed-off area, thinking it's the perfect place to hide, but Kafka suddenly senses something approaching. We see an explosion, and there's a report of another kaiju, so Mina splits her team up. Reno notes that there will be less people after him, so he thinks it's the perfect distraction for them to hide, but Kafka seems to hesitate. At the sight of the explosion, we see a girl crying, as her mother appears to be trapped. She isn't strong enough to lift the debris, and the kaiju suddenly appears. It smashes through the building, and prepares to eat them, but Kafka suddenly punches it, and completely blows it away, shocking himself with his own strength. He checks on the girl, but she's afraid, so he tries smiling again, but it only makes things worse. He's able to free the mother, but the kaiju suddenly returns. So he tells Reno to get away, and he charges up his full strength. He dodges the kaiju's attack, and delivers a devastating punch, which completely blows it up, causing its blood to rain down. He says it's over, but the girl is still terrified. So he tells her he will go, but as he starts to walk away, she actually thanks him. He's reminded of when Mina thanked him, remembering his promise to stick with her, so he realizes what he needs to do. Reno tells him they should go before anyone else arrives, but he says he's not giving up, saying he needs to go and stand by Mina's side. We see Mina as she arrives on the scene, wondering what happened. She asks the girl about the kaiju, but she's scared when she thinks about it. Mina assures her that they will wipe out all the kaiju, but the girl asks her not to hurt the good kaiju, mentioning how there was a good kaiju that saved her mother. 3 months later, we see the cleaning team watching the news, and learn that Kafka has been given the codename Number 8. Reno thinks things have gotten out of hand, and we learn Kafka was the first kaiju in history to escape the Defense Force, so they are all looking for him. The supervisor mentions there's mail for him and Kafka, and we see he passed the test for the Defense Force. He has a look at Kafka's letter, and we see that he also passed. Reno rushes to deliver the news to Kafka, but he sees him in his kaiju form, so he kicks him. Kafka quickly changes back, and Reno warns him he's still wanted, so he can't just expose himself. Reno gives him the letter, but wonders why he isn't excited, so Kafka mentions it's the second round that he normally fails. We learn that the second round is the practical exam, and Reno wonders how he'll hide his body since there will be officers watching. But Kafka says he will take it regardless, and since he's 32, this is his last chance to make it in. On the day of the exam, we see them arriving at the Defense Force's Tachikawa base. We see other participants arriving, and there's suddenly a girl that calls out to Kafka, calling him old. He freaks out and explains he's only 32, but she tells him his car is in the way. He notes that there are plenty of spots, but the girl mentions that 55 is her lucky number. Kafka thinks about teaching her some manners, but the girl decides to move it herself. She takes off her jacket, revealing a suit, and she lifts their car with only one hand, throwing it to the side. Kafka freaks out about the damage, and Reno wonders who the girl is, so she introduces herself as Kokoro Shinomiya, mentioning that her favorite hobby is killing kaiju, but she suddenly starts smelling Kafka, saying he smells like a kaiju. But Reno defends him, explaining it's because they're disposal workers, so she looks down on them, saying they aren't supposed to be there. But she sees Kafka lifting the car, and she can't believe he has superhuman strength, thinking he's also wearing a suit. He tells her he's going to be taking the exam, telling her to remember his name, and she believes things are about to get interesting, saying she's going to prove that she's better than him. We meet her butler Sabasu, and they head inside. But Reno becomes upset, because Kafka used his powers to lift the car. So he explains that he only transformed his hand, so that no one will notice, but Reno tells him that isn't the issue, advising him not to use his powers, and Kafka agrees to this. They make their way inside, as Kafka notes that this is his last chance to join the Defense Force, so he's determined to give it everything he has. We learn that the second round of the exam has 2 parts, and they aren't sure if they're going to do well during the aptitude test, so they decide to give the fitness test everything they have. But as the exam begins, we see Kafka struggling, as he notes that his performance is worse than before, so he thinks he got weaker because of his age. Kafka doesn't perform well, so Kokoro mocks him, because he told her to remember his name, but his ranking is terrible, and he's nowhere near her level. So he falls into despair, but Reno admires him for not using his powers, and he explains that he doesn't want to play dirty, knowing everyone is doing their best to pass the exam. But he thinks about his ranking, realizing he could have improved it by using his powers, but Reno explains that there's another reason why he didn't do well. They start talking about the top dogs in the exam, and Reno tells Kafka about the rank 2 candidate, Haru Izumo, revealing that he graduated top of his class from a prestigious university. The rank 3 candidate named Furuhashi also graduated as a valedictorian from his school, and he's known for his incredible strength. The top candidate, Kagura, was invited to become an elite member of Japan's ground force, but he turned down the offer because he wanted to join the Defense Force instead. Reno adds that there are other competent candidates, so he knows the competition is going to be tough. But he mentions that everyone's watching Kokoro, saying she's considered to be a prodigy because she was able to graduate from a prominent university at the age of 16. So they think she has incredible talent, and everyone wants to defeat her. Kafka approaches her, saying she's amazing, but her bodyguards beat him up, telling him not to touch her. She thinks he's pathetic, and she promises to keep making him look bad, so he becomes upset, saying he's going to get his revenge. But he thinks he's going to fail the exam, so Reno tells him not to lose hope, thinking the next test is about kaiju corpse disposal, so they think they have the advantage. The candidates head to the next area, where they meet Sashiro Hashina, the vice captain of the 3rd Division, who tells them they're about to have their aptitude test. He opens a gate, and Kafka is excited for kaiju corpse disposal, but Sashiro tells them they're going to be killing kaiju instead. Reno and Kafka aren't happy to hear this, and a kaiju tries to leave the gate, but it's stopped by a barrier. Kokoro sees Kafka freaking out, so she laughs at him, and Sashiro explains that they'll be wearing combat suits during the test. Reno wears his suit, and it fits him perfectly, as it mentions that it has finished analyzing his body. Sashiro explains that the suits are made of organic material taken from kaiju, and it grants the user superhuman abilities. The operator Konomi measures the candidate's unleashed combat power, revealing that Reno has only tapped into 8% of his suit's power, while the top students have unlocked over 10%. Sashiro mentions that they should be able to reach 20% after they finish training, and Furuhashi appears to be disappointed with his result. But Sashiro finds them interesting because only talented candidates can unlock 10% of the suit's potential without training. But Konomi reveals that Kikoru has tapped into 46% of the suit's power, recognizing her as the greatest talent in history because she's already at the level of a platoon leader. Rino thinks he's pathetic, but Sashiro tells him he's doing fine, saying he can still pass the test. But we see Kafka struggling as Konomi reveals that his unleashed combat power is 0%, which is the lowest number in history, so Sashiro laughs at him, thinking he's going to fail. He can't believe this is happening, thinking there's something wrong with his suit, but Kikoru knows he's hiding his powers, and she's waiting for him to use it before the exam comes to an end. They prepare for the final test, as Sashiro explains that they need to eliminate the kaiju in the area, saying the drones will be monitoring their actions. He reveals that the suits have shields, which the examiners will activate if a candidate's life is in danger, but he explains that the candidate will be disqualified if this happens. The test begins, and Kikoru starts jumping around the area, shooting down the kaiju